Hello and welcome to my short episode on dietary supplements titled Are They Sugar Pills? To preface, all research quoted and used to make this was taken within the last 5 years. For this project, I set out to decide whether or not there are dietary supplements worth taking, with the main premise of the title being Are they sugar pills? Meaning, are these pills even doing anything, or are they just a placebo that makes you imagine effect? To reach an answer to this question, I researched a list of common supplements that I have seen advertised for or have been recommended to take by others. But due to time constraint, I was not able to list out every supplement, despite getting a extension. Because supplements' main purpose are often to provide nutrients that aren't common in our diets, supplements are commonly used as dietary shortcuts to make up for the difficulties of maintaining a balanced diet while having a balanced life. Just to keep in mind, many of my opinions on these supplements are based off of whether or not I think they're worth spending money on and for their supposed benefits. At the same time, I'm not a health professional and I never will be. I'm not even studying to be one, I'm studying to be a mechanical engineer, so I'm very far removed from being able to give proper advice on this. This project simply aims to provide if there are necessary and or helpful dietary supplements. Rather than being a guide on what you should be consuming, this project is designed to inform the listener on possible supplements to bring up with your doctor or some other health professional. I also aim to inspire the audience to look into other unlisted supplements such as melatonin, omega-3s, fish oils, gut supplements, and caffeine. But before we proceed, I would like to talk about these on just like what I kind of already think I know at least, because I don't really have any research backing this. So this might just be kind of a nothing burger to even add. But melatonin is bad for your sleep schedule. If you take it too often, it is going to mess up your sleep and eventually have a bad effect, as far as I know. And then for gut health supplements and caffeine, those are also things I would not recommend taking as gut health supplements. Those are very, from previous stuff that I've researched that isn't included in this, so it is kind of just like, trust me on this, I researched this. Gut health supplements, they're not very great because they're going to have a different effect for everyone. Everybody's body is different, especially like your gut microbiome and stuff. It's an entire different thing to get into. I'm kind of surprised I didn't do my entire research project around that alone. But also for caffeine, I would not suggest taking too much caffeine, and by that I know I'm talking in the world of supplements, like dietary supplements, but just caffeine in general would be good to stay away from. I would say coffee is better, especially like lower amounts of caffeine. I really would not recommend doing dietary supplements with caffeine, as I've heard people that actually mislabel their like giant thing of powderized caffeine as something else, and they actually put like 100 grams of it in their drink and they drink it and just die because that's just way too much caffeine for one person. And then for omega-3s and fish oils, I've heard very good things about them. I wish I had time to get to these, but they sound very good for you, but I don't know. I would suggest looking into those and asking your doctor about them, but I think doctors would agree with melatonin, gut health supplements, and caffeine being bad for you. As any time I ask my doctor about them, they don't. I got these things from my doctor. They don't like those. But to actually get on with like the list of supplements I wanted to talk about, the first one would be creatine. And to start, creatine is a widely used and studied dietary supplement, like heavily studied. There are a lot of people that say that it's secretly bad for you, doesn't do anything. But more than anything, I want the viewer to not believe that about creatine. I know I said to like go to your health professional, but this one is just like, it just seems so blatant that it's worth taking. But I'll go into it very quickly. Um, it is most commonly used by gym goers for its help with athletics, but creatine has proven positive effects for anyone. An article I found posted by a number of authors, many of which holding PhDs in nutrition-related fields, claims as a fact that it is recommended that all individuals consume 2 to 3 grams per day of creatine to promote general health. Creter et al. On page 3 of the article, which you can find in the list of sources. And to do it, it is recommended that most of this creatine is, I'm doing this in quotation marks because I stole this part also from the article, it is obtained from the diet. This is pretty much going to be said by nearly every article that you look up about these things. I feel like if they don't say this, there's probably something fishy about them. Because pretty much any doctor or research is going to say to obtain it through the diet. But this article does further delve into this as it goes in the sources of creatine being mainly meat and fish. This also means that vegetarians, vegans, they don't really get creatine, so this is also very good for vegans, as a lot of these are, because we'll get into it later, but vitamin B is also very good for vegans to be taking. But the article further develops into the meat and fish being the main contributors of creatine to most people's diet, and they are relatively expensive to the average American. This is considering that there are only 1 to 2 grams of creatine per pound of meat or fish, so it is both expensive and a lot of meat and fish to be eating every day. Just imagine eating about maybe up to 4 pounds of meat in a single day. I personally would not have room for any other food, and I'd have to become a carnivore and die from not being able to have a balanced diet. But because of impracticality of buying and eating pounds of meat of fish a day, the article states, in quotations, dietary supplementation of creatine monohydrate about 3 cents to 5 cents per gram is a more cost-effective way to ensure individuals obtain enough creatine, end quotes, Creter et al. So in summary, creatine is a necessary nutrient that is impractical for most people to consume through their diet, so dietary supplementation is beneficial for everyone. And I don't have this listed in what I'm reading off of, but from remembering the article, they really go into like every age level. It's very good for babies. And then it's also super good for old people. It's good for memory. It's good for pretty much everything. It's very good for exercise too, as it has a very nice way of helping with recovery. And in another article where I was trying to research more into like the recovery and stuff, because that's what I know creatine for. In another article compiling studies relating the creatine's effect on athleticism, I found that creatine most notably helps with fatigue and recovery. But there's just a lot more to it. It helps with muscle mass, all because of like water retention, and it helps. I personally take it and I feel like it helps me a lot. It just does have a loading period, so it takes a while to use, and you have to be very consistent with it every day. And some people will say that you need to take 5 to 7 if you're exercising. I've never really found anything proving that, but I would imagine that it's helpful, but I wouldn't consider it very necessary off of this research alone. This is very much something to go to your health professional about. And then that's the end of creatine. For the next subject, or next supplement, we'll be moving on to ashwagandha. And ashwagandha is a plant native to parts of Africa, the Middle East, and is most notably used in India as a traditional herbal remedy. As part of I don't know how to pronounce it. I'll try to pronounce it later when it comes back up again. I'm just not that good at pronouncing things right now, I guess. But in recent years, ashwagandha has grown in popularity as it can be found in pharmacies around the world. Ashwagandha is notable for its proposed improvements in reducing stress, anxiety, and even depression, while also being known for benefits relating to exercise. I will say there does seem to be a lot of overlap in the benefits of ashwagandha and creatine. Most of what can be said about one can be said about the other, even though they're very different and how they go about helping is very different. You can just find somewhat of a similar effect between the two, from what I found and from what I've experienced by taking both. And also, ashwagandha is not a vital nutrient at all, and it is really just very much supplementary. It's very much just a supplement. It's very optional, but it's helpful. It's not necessary by any mean. unless like you consider anything helpful to be necessary, which might be doing too much. But after seeing a lot of gym content creators recommend ashwagandha, I decided to look into it. A big piece supporting it is an article I found analyzing the research done on ashwagandha by a team of researchers in India, all of them having high-level degrees in positions relating to nutrition and health science. The article concludes that ashwagandha, in their words, improved memory and focus, psychological well-being, and sleep quality, and reduced stress levels, all while being safe for consumption when taken regularly once a day for 90 days, relating to the proposed exercise. Sorry, I just changed sentences without pausing. Relating to the proposed exercise-related benefits, I found a comprehensive article interpreting the data found from studies designed to assess the link between ashwagandha and exercise. The article concludes that compared to a placebo, ashwagandha was proven to improve the strength, power, cardiorespiratory fitness, and fatigue/recovery in both male and female participants, which I find very important, as a lot of studies seem to forget that women exist and think that male bodies are the same as female bodies. But in this case, there is very much a similar effect. And I didn't mention it for the creatine, but it's the same thing. And there'll be a couple other times that comes up. I don't know if I've listed them, but I did try to specifically look for research that had like both male and female candidates and looked into like the difference between gender. If I had more time, I would specifically go into how bad the medicine field is at assessing that difference. But also, back to the study, the same study also claims ashwagandha most likely aids in helping you build muscle slightly faster. So you will see some size difference. I don't know how, I don't know exactly the word, but how visible that will be. I don't really know. The article says it might help, but it doesn't have enough proof in this article. Everything else said so far has been considered proven by these articles as far as they state. And they are very reliable, as all the people doing them are pretty much for any article in this, just assume that these are done by professionals in the health field, and they know what they're talking about more than I do, which is also why you should go to your doctor about this stuff. But since finding these reputable articles, I have decided to start taking ashwagandha and to see how effective it would be for me and to compare it to these findings. 2 months into consistent daily supplementation of ashwagandha, I've found how it's helped me in I've noticed, I don't know if it's exactly ashwagandha, but ever since taking it, this is pretty much just correlation. Anytime I go to the gym or work out, run, anything, I feel like I can just do a lot more. Like, failure is a lot further away than it was before. At least it feels like it. It might just be like one more rep away, but to me that feels like a lot. And also just, exercise feels more comfortable. I don't know if that's just me developing as a person, but I've definitely felt a difference since taking it. I wouldn't say it's exactly because of it, but it feels most likely because of it, because that's really the only thing that's changed recently for me in relation to exercise. But I've also been using it to help study and focus. It's very good for stressful times like finals. I'm not saying that it's gets rid of your stress completely, but it does help lessen that stress. It helps you lock in a lot more. But it's much more of a nuanced effect. It doesn't do everything for you. It doesn't make you perfectly lock in. And the only con being that it made me tired when I first started taking it, which is why I say 2 months into consistent daily supplementation. I've had these effects the whole way through, but I feel like I no longer feel the tiredness since probably a month of taking it. But it was very minimal tiredness. I don't even know if it was the ashwagandha, because sometimes I just get tired for no reason. That might be related to other things. But to get back to the topic at hand, a big disclaimer here is that ashwagandha only has substantial proof of it being healthy for the first 3 months of supplementation, which is why pretty much Everything I've seen in this is only 3 month studies. I never find anything outside of that, and everything just recommends to only take it for 3 months. And it's also why I bought a 3 month supply from Walgreens for only $20. I had discount, so I got it for 10, but that's pretty much like the cheapest that I could find it for was as the Walgreens brand of like their it's just like the root extract. There is a difference between the root and like a lot of them are a combination of the plant itself and the root. The pharmacist I spoke to said there is not very much of a difference. Most of it comes from the root anyways. You might get more out of a full like complex, but I honestly think that's just them trying to get more money out of you, which is why that's why I like that pharmacist. But the long-term effects of ashwagandha have yet to be properly linked and have yet to be properly studied, but it has been commonly used in India for decades, if not centuries. I wrote that not knowing if it was centuries. It has most likely been used for thousands of years in India. Personally, I will stop taking it after 3 months and wait for long-term studies to be released, as both articles warn that nearly all studies. Sorry, I'm dying, I don't know why. That nearly all studies done on ashwagandha only prove its safety and or effectiveness over a 3 month trial, which I already stated. I don't know why I repeated that twice in my paper. But, or script, I don't really know what this is. But to move on to something different now, I wanted to go into vitamins because multivitamins are by far the most consumed dietary supplement in America. Some sources say half of Americans, some sources say 1 in 3. I saw one that said 70%, and I heavily doubt that, so I didn't use that one. I didn't use that source at all, especially because but also at the same time, it said the same thing as every other source, which I'll get into. And you would assume from so many of them being used, there'd be a general consensus that they are good for you, there's guaranteed benefits, but there's very mixed results from studies. You would assume that there'd be a proven benefit of a multivitamin to the average person, but there is no such consensus. Many articles and studies like to focus on whether or not that multivitamins have a proven benefit to someone's lifespan, but there's also no effect or even a negative effect. I've seen some say that you are 4% likely to die a little bit sooner if you take one, but those were based off older studies, and I don't think I used the source saying that in my list of sources because it was from 2013. So I'm kind of ignoring that one. I'm just mentioning it because I have seen things that say that there is a negative effect, and there are current things that regard that study in like their own interpretation, or at least in like their introduction. But there's often just no effect. It's very proven that there's no effect on your overall lifespan. But I feel like those studies are largely trying to logic out that the correlation between mortality and consistent multivitamin use make the case that multivitamins don't work. So I decided to ignore multivitamins. I just don't want to talk about them because it's hard to find anything proving any benefits. They always end up talking about mortality, or they're just a random article online that has no sources or no viable sources proving that there is a benefit, or they're paid for by some health company, and I just don't trust it if it's very clearly being paid for. All I can ascertain is that multivitamins are marketed as a shortcut that sorry, I'm trying to understand what I wrote here. That they'll fail to use as your regular diet already. Yep. As all I can ascertain is that multivitamins are marketed as a shortcut that'll fail to be. Sorry, I don't know what I was doing when I was writing this. It's just multivitamins. They're very much marketed as a shortcut, but they never really can make up for losses in your regular diet. I bet any health professional would just say to get your vitamins from your diet. A healthy diet is most likely going to be better than anything in this. Even ashwagandha, which you are not going to find in a diet, you could probably get better benefits from, like, let's say you have an unhealthy diet and you're taking ashwagandha, you're probably going to be held back by your unhealthy diet and not really get much out of ashwagandha. It's good to have a healthy diet no matter what. But it's difficult though, which is why we're talking about supplements. And our next supplement is a vitamin, because I wanted to go into two specific vitamins, or actually one specific vitamin and a group of vitamins. But vitamin D, according to the Mayo Clinic, vitamin D is an important nutrient that is needed for helping calcium absorption, which is necessary for skeletal health. So it definitely seems very important, but only about 7% of the world population has trouble with vitamin D deficiencies. Conversely, as vitamin D has gotten more popular as a supplement in the United States, more and more people are taking too much. About 3% in the United States is taking more than the maximum limit of 4,000 IU, which I think is international units. I don't really know how to put that in perspective, but I take 2 small gummies, or at least I used to, and together they were 2,000. Because I knew that 4,000 would be too much, and I don't want kidney stones, which I'll get to. And this leads to buildup in the body. Oh, I got right to it, but this leads to buildup in the body, which can cause kidney stones that may have to be surgically removed. And also, you can expect heart issues, muscle issues, appetite issues, etc. if you take too much. If you do still want to consider supplementing vitamin D, a good quote that I found is, "Vitamin D supplementation, in brackets, does not generate benefits for global health or major diseases," end quote. According to Bullion et al. And just if you don't know already, I'm reading off like probably most of what I'm saying, just so I'm not spitting out random nonsense off the top of my head. But to continue, as someone who used to take a specific vitamin D supplement, I will no longer be taking any more supplementation. But it is worth noting that there's definitely some benefit to taking doses less than 4,000 or around 4,000 IU or less. Sorry, I think I was tweaking out while writing this, but I'd only do that if you have more money than you need or your doctor specifically recommends it for you. So vitamin D there isn't very much reason in taking it unless your doctor really tells you to. You're going to get you literally get it from the sun. But it's still very important though. I've heard people say that it helps a lot with energy, and I've heard the same exact thing about the next vitamin, or vitamin group as I should say, which is vitamin B, which is often labeled as if it's only one vitamin, but its name refers to a group of 8 vitamins such as vitamins B 1 through 3, 5 through 7, 9, and 12. This is also why some vitamin B supplement containers are labeled as B complex. So from now on, whenever I say vitamin B, I'm referring to the group as a whole. And also the B complex is usually just going to be like a mixture of all those or something similar. Sorry, I just took a break to pause it to get some water. I hope that isn't very noticeable. But to continue, the vitamin B group is important as it is necessary for keeping your energy, producing cells, maintaining cells, and creating DNA. These traits, alongside an even longer list of other benefits, make the whole vitamin B group necessary to staying alive. It is a necessary nutrient, or as all of vitamin B is a necessary nutrient to staying alive, as it literally helps with creating DNA and creating more of your body. But a lot of this is going to go into energy. And vitamin B is often marketed as something that will give you more energy, but that is partly true. The sources I've looked at outright say that's a lie, but it just kind of feels like it's partly true, because vitamin B plays a very important role in metabolizing macronutrients, being carbs, fats, proteins, if you don't know what those are, but which in turn gives you more energy, because processing those macronutrients gives you energy. The macronutrients are the energy, and there's some other things outside of carbs, fats, and proteins that get turned into energy, but those are the main things. That's where most of your energy comes from. And also, just as a side note that you won't see in the list is if you are working out or you just want some quick energy, I would recommend like a bunch of like fruit or a smoothie or like something that is mainly just carbs with like no fat in it, and it'll give you like a nice short burst of energy. It's really good for a workout. I would recommend it over like any caffeinated pre-workout, even though it'll be nowhere near as intense. It's just a lot healthier and will help you cut weight, I think. That's just stuff that I've heard, but I just wanted to include. If you want to learn more about that, I wish I had time to include more about that. I didn't mean to, but back to vitamin B. From experience, vitamin B doesn't really like it has a much nicer feeling than caffeine, but comparing it to caffeine, it doesn't really give you as much of like a jolt of energy. I know like a lot of people will take caffeine at the beginning of the day, but for me specifically, caffeine is like just like for a few hours and then I crash afterwards and I feel tired. Vitamin B, I've never had such a crash. I've never heard of anyone having such a crash. I can't give any research proving that or like how vitamin B feels, but off personal experience, vitamin B is like a nice bit of energy for the whole day. But caffeine is very much just like for a certain amount of time is good for if you have to get a project done. But that's really about as far as I go with it. It is good to stay away from caffeine though, as far as I know. But a medical professional would probably agree. Also, vitamin B is fragile, so don't expect to get much out of processed or cooked foods. Not like you get much out of processed foods, anyways, as the processing or the cooking of the foods will like break down the vitamin B, and it really won't do anything after that. And this is part of the reason why whole grain is generally more nutritious than white flour, bread, or rice, as it processing it will usually take out that vitamin B, and it also has a lot of other effects, which is kind of like why whole grain has a lot more nutrients, because processing it usually takes out a lot of them. I can't really explain how, other than it's just harsh on them and it breaks them down. And the worst side effect from taking vitamin B supplement is that it will make your urine yellower and smellier, as a reminder that you are probably pissing your money away by taking it. Vitamin B is very interesting, and I will personally continue to take it in the future because it does have like a nice effect on helping me metabolize more of my food and the energy. I do enjoy the small amount of energy that it does help, rather than taking the risk of frequent caffeine consumption, because I don't want to be a caffeine fiend, as I do need that energy to get through college. But according to the Mayo Clinic and the Better Health Channel, which is a reliable health company of Australia's government, it is said that there is a waste of money to taking vitamin B complex or B12 supplement, as you'll more than likely get enough of it from your diet unless you eat unhealthily. Or you are a vegetarian or a vegan, because you really won't get it from much plant-based things. It's more of something that you'll get from meat products. Or if you have existing conditions that your doctor recommends that you take some vitamin B supplement. I did mention B12 earlier, as it is what I personally used to take and what I usually look for in stuff that claims that it'll give you more energy, such as like an energy drink. But since researching this, I feel like if you were to take something, a B complex is a better thing to ask your doctor about. And I would take it if I had the money to, but I don't really have the money to, so I think I'll stop it with vitamin B for now. But when I'm rich, I will be taking it. Also, multivitamins may seem like a good source of vitamin B, but other nutrients in the multivitamin may limit your body's ability to process other vitamins, such as a good example would be how vitamin C supplementation may limit your body's ability to use as much B12. That's in part because vitamin C and B12 work together in some way. The things I looked at didn't really say how they work together. They just said because they work together, if you supplement both, such as in like what I'm assuming would be like a multivitamin. The article doesn't explicitly state multivitamins. It just I'm kind of assuming that's like where you most likely get both supplemented at the same time, or just taking separate supplements. The vitamin C supplementation will limit the B12 as they work together. It basically just means that your body will use less B12, so you're just going to pee out more of it, and you'll just be peeing out more money. But if you do feel a lack of energy, I would recommend asking your doctor or a health professional about supplementing vitamin B. And then to move on to, I believe this is our second to last supplement, I wanted to move on to turmeric. And turmeric is a spice known for making Kraft mac and cheese so vibrantly yellow, but more importantly, it contains curcumin, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. I'm pretty sure it's curcumin. But turmeric is like ashwagandha, as it has been part of India's like herbal medicine system that they've had for thousands of years. And turmeric and ashwagandha have both been a part of it for centuries. But is now both of them are becoming a popular supplement in Western society. You may recognize turmeric as a spice in your vast array of spices that you often forget to explore. In your vast array of spices in your spice cabinet that you often forget to explore due to it containing curcumin, as it has many health benefits. Sorry, I'm losing it a little right now. My contacts are slipping out, or like slipping off my eyes, so I can't really read this. But Harvard Health lists benefits in improving conditions such as arthritis, digestive disorders, depression, and allergies, among others. So it improves a lot of conditions, but although these same studies that I've been looking at also link turmeric to helping prevent and fight cancer, the most interesting thing about turmeric, or more accurately curcumin, is its anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. That is a very important thing that I haven't really mentioned yet, and it's also been kind of important to these previous supplements, as they help with like earlier things. If I talk about like fatigue and recovery, it usually has some relation to anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects, because those help with a lot. And many articles and studies agree with this, but for the sake of providing examples, I found an article that was recently put together by a team of well-equipped researchers, all of whom being in the Department of Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology at the Jashore University of Science and Technology in Bangladesh. In their article, the group concludes that turmeric showed significant anti-inflammation and antioxidant activity. These effects are important because chronic inflammation and oxidative chemical reactions will damage your body, and preventing these effects is a big part of why a healthy diet is important. Turmeric is great because of curcumin's ability to lessen these effects, but similar effects can be found in fruits and vegetables, mainly darker ones for antioxidants. A specific example would be like blueberries. And I think they also said like darker vegetables, like darker leaf greens. And some nuts, oils, and seeds. Also a spice, since turmeric is also a spice, it'd be great to find recipes including turmeric, but remember to use at least a little black pepper with it, as it greatly assists in getting the effects of curcumin. There's something in black pepper that helps the curcumin like have its effect on your body. And overall, turmeric isn't necessary, and it isn't prevalent in many Westerners' diets, and it's clearly not necessary since we're not all dying. But its effects are necessary, the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory and a lot of other effects that it has. But there's just too many to list. I read through a very long conclusion of multiple articles proving that there are a lot of positive effects to taking just turmeric alone. But if you do wish to supplement turmeric, you will get much more of its effects if you look for supplements that specify that they help increase its effects. But since it's a spice, it's very easy to find recipes that include it. And also, if you want like the same effects, you could also just eat like a lot of fruits and vegetables, and you might get similar effects, especially like antioxidants and anti-inflammatory effects. But I personally take I think it's called Cunol's. I take their curcumin complex uh, turmeric capsules, but it's best to get from your diet just as nearly everything mentioned so far. That is the general consensus of dietary supplements, is that it's best to get it from your diet specifically, but supplements are just there to as like a dietary shortcut. It's just there to get these things for you easier. And then moving on to our final supplement that we'll be talking about today is magnesium. Magnesium is a vital nutrient in the body, and like vitamins or anything else previously mentioned, do not assume you have a deficiency without confirmation from a health professional. I've seen a lot of random TikToks telling me that I'm probably deficient in magnesium or iron or some random thing. And also, iron is a good thing to look into too. A lot of people do actually get iron deficits without thinking about it, but that's something you talk about with your doctor. These are all very good things to talk about with your doctor. And it is still good to eat magnesium-rich foods. Like, I would personally say to eat magnesium-rich foods rather than taking a supplement. Even though I take a supplement before bed after working out because it helps with soreness, so does turmeric. But I wasn't really able to find any sources for this specific research saying that. But in the past I just couldn't really get those currently due to a time constraint. But I would say just mainly look for dark leafy greens. So like spinach, they're going to be very good at getting magnesium. And then also, if you are going to supplement it, take magnesium glycinate, as that will help you absorb it a lot better. It's specifically designed for that. Just a normal magnesium supplement is not really going to be absorbed at all. It is kind of just a waste of money. And magnesium glycinate might be too, because you're going to get most of your magnesium anyways. And if you really want more, it's just best to eat more leafy greens, or there are other ways of getting it, but I don't have those listed out. Overall, in conclusion, I will repeat what I've been repeating out through this entire thing. Like this entire project, I've sounded like a broken letter or broken record talking about how you should just talk to your doctor about these things. If you have any health problems that you feel like you're just low on energy or just something's wrong, go to your health professional. They probably won't even give you dietary supplements most of the time. They might give you something very specific because you might have something different. But it's always good to bring up dietary supplements with your doctor, regardless of if you feel like there's anything wrong with you, because these do help and they're different for each person. Your doctors, out of anyone, is going to know the best about what you should be taking or what you can be taking. A lot of the time, you might not, like, they might not say that you should be taking these, but for just like not having to have a super well balanced diet, as it's very difficult with how just life is, it is good to be taking these things. I take a lot of them. Pretty much everything listed so far, I take or decided to stop taking because of this research. And I might be a little hypocritical for taking some of these without asking my doctor. I just don't want to wait till my next doctor's appointment, which is why usually I'll just ask the pharmacist at Walgreens. I feel like they know a lot. But just in conclusion, there are most definitely supplements that are worth taking. There are supplements that do things. Most of these aren't sugar pills. If you see something in the store, the most likely thing to have similar effects to sugar pills would be a multivitamin. I would stay away from multivitamins. But there could also be more that's found out about them, because I couldn't really find any like specific daily benefits. Anything is just talking about your whole life as a whole, which is why I just ignored it, because I really couldn't find anything showing any like daily effect or like just any health benefit. It's very difficult to find that. They always just relate back to mortality for some odd reason. So also due to time constraints, I will be ending my short little episode of about 40 minutes. Very much a little short episode. I will be ending that now, and thank you for listening, and bye.